Welcome to another Conservation Friday. Today we have Ben Savoie from the Barrie Conservation District. He is the district forester. He's going to be talking today about oaks.
All right. Well, hello everyone. Let me see if I can get my screen shared the presentation today. There we go. All right. So yeah, today's presentation is brought in part by the Michigan Forestry Assistance Program, which is my program. I help people through on-site assistance and professional referrals to the forest industry. And this is for all landowners in Barrie, Allegan, and Ottawa counties. So today I want to talk about oak trees. Oak trees are, a topic very near and dear to my heart, and I hope yours as well. So today we're going to be going over the key characteristics of oak trees, identification in the wild, where you can find oak trees, and what makes them special. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit about what we can all do to help our oaks out in Michigan. So the key characteristics of oak trees is that they're usually deciduous. The species in Michigan are all deciduous, but there are some in the south and southwest of the United States that are evergreen. The oaks are monoecious, which means that they have both female and male flowers on the same plant. Their leaves are single in lobe, so it's not like many leaflets like you see on hickory or walnut trees. And most importantly, they, in some cases, they produce acorns. Most years they'll produce acorns in smaller amounts, and then they'll have massed years of where the previous year have very little acorns, and then the year after that they just pump out as much as possible. So identification of oak trees is somewhat difficult. There are 90 species in the United States, and 10 of those are native to Michigan. And it can be difficult to identify them because they can hybridize with each other. And this is within their oak groups. They are divided into two groups. There's red oak trees, which are have leaves that are pointed and have very bitter acorns. And then there's white oak group oak trees that have rounded lobes and much less bitter acorns. Now, red oaks, you can usually tell what their leaves look like from the points on their leaves, and there's a good way to remember this. They're red like flames. Flames have the kind of points in their flickers, and white oaks have rounded lobes, so they're round and puffed like clouds. So red like flames, white like clouds. Red oaks definitely prefer the sandier soils. So I think where it would be very difficult to farm, this kind of upland, sandy and gravelly areas, and very well drained soil. They can tolerate this sort of droughty conditions that come in these sort of arid environments. Whereas white oaks really prefer loamy and rich soils that can hold moisture and sustain their large root system. So the main topic I wanted to talk about on this Conservation Fridays was what makes oak so special. What makes them unique and interesting. Oaks are a cultural symbol, often used in place of strength and endurance, and this has led to them being used in symbology for the military and coats of arms or in medals. And then architecture on keystones or architectural pillars to basically signify this is a big pillar that's going to be holding a lot of weight. It needs to be very strong. And Similarly with governing, it's used as a symbol of endurance. It's a lasting system that is going to provide for its people. And a lot of this comes from the strength of the wood of the tree, where it's very, very dense and pliable. So it tends to bend before it breaks. Uh, it's also attributed to the strong taproots that it has that keeps the oak standing in extreme weather, like extreme winds or ice. Oaks are also special in the way that they provide for wildlife in our woods. The benefits are really countless, but the main factor is that is known as a keystone species. Whereas if oaks were removed from whatever system that they were in, it would have drastic changes to the ecosystem. There are so many woodland game creatures like squirrels, rabbits, turkey, and deer that depend on these acorns as a source of food over the winter. The acorns are very hardy and hold on to lots of protein and fat, and it can basically keep animals alive throughout the harsh conditions of winter. And not only that, oaks are host to over 500 species of moths and butterflies. And these insect populations are kind of the root of the food web that is present in these ecosystems. The more caterpillars and worms and pupa and the butterflies themselves are present, the more they can feed the birds that feed the predators, and so on and so forth. Having that intricate food web helps with the diversity of a system and helps it survive from these sort of stresses. A good example of this is the Carner blue butterfly. It's in a rare habitat called an oak savanna, which is partly open space with grasses, flowers, and open space, bare ground, I should say. And it's host to a lot of endangered species that are dependent on these very specific ecosystem types. Carner blue butterfly depends on wild lupine, which is a wildflower that grows mostly in these oak savannas. And in this picture, it's actually resting on a lupine leaf. Basically, the more that we promote oak growth and these type of ecosystems, the more diverse and rare species that we can support. But oaks are having some trouble. Oaks have a problem with regeneration, which regeneration means the younger growth, the seedlings and saplings that are trying to grow up from the forest floor, there's not enough of it to replace what is older and aging out of the system. This is due in part to a lot of changes in the use of the land that we have. Forests are often just kept alone. They don't have any disturbance in them, and oaks are really adapted to a lot of disturbance, having either windstorms or fire or ice storms coming through and killing off a lot of the competition while they can remain standing. And this has a lasting impact on what our woods looks like. This continuing shade and lack of disturbance in the understory starts a process called mesification, which is transitioning an oak-based forest to something more like maple, beech, hemlock, things that are more dependent on infrequent disturbance and lots of shade in the understory. It's not that these forests are any better or worse, it's just the natural result of how we're using this land. So there are a few things that we can change about how we use this land in order to help oaks out, help them regrow in a more sustainable way. And that's what the White Oak Initiative is about. It's a national group in the forest industry, started up by actually barrel makers in the South, trying to make a more sustainable method of harvesting white oak for bourbon barrels. And this has since expanded to public agencies, universities, philanthropists, so rich individuals that want to make a difference in their community. And it's this group working together to make sure that oaks have a better chance for the future, to help promote that better regeneration through a variety of tactics. Usually it's through the more sustainable management of these woods, whether that's introducing fire to ecosystems that haven't had it in a long time, or encouraging people to do timber harvesting on their property, whereas they may not have even considered that before. Something that helps bring disturbance into these woods and helps promote oak regrowth. So the first steps in order to actually do these sort of things is to know what you have out in the woods. If you don't know if you have oaks out there, you have to take a walk out in the woods, make sure that they're there, and make sure that you have something to protect and what conditions that they're in. It is important that you consider different options for the property, whether it because there are a few that may be right for you. If timber harvesting is a good path to take, like something has been left alone for so long that there are valuable trees in the woods that are growing and in the way of oak regrowth, that is something that could be potentially beneficial to the land and also for your pocketbook. And also introducing more prescribed fire is something that is a little harder to do on private lands and for individuals to do themselves, just because of the risk of fire itself. But it's something that, when it can be done, it's one of the best things that you can do to promote this oak regrowth and encourage that new green growth to come up from the understory. It really helps with getting rid of that deep leaf layer that oaks can create with their very firm, waxy leaves. So it's something that it prepares the soil for oaks to do better in the future, as well as removing a lot of the competition by killing them with that extreme heat. So I know it was a shorter presentation, but I'd be glad to answer any questions that you all have, or um, go into more detail on things I had talked about.
Great. Thank you so much. That was really, really informative. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now. So I will go ahead and reclaim the host, and I'm going to end the recording.